Darren Waller is a New York Giant. This is really the first big-time tight end the Giants have had since, I'd say, Jeremy Shockey. Darren Waller traded to the Giants from the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for a compensatory third-round pick. Pick number 100, which the Giants acquired in the Kadarius Toney deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. So now you look back at that, and look, Toney for Waller isn't necessarily one for one, although Waller does technically have 4 years left on this contract. We'll talk about the contract, but in essence, it's kind of Kadarius Toney. It's basically Darren Waller and a sixth for Kadarius Toney. But this is really Daniel Jones' best weapon in quite some, I mean, could we argue maybe his entire career? Maybe that's being short-sighted, but I don't really think it necessarily is. Now, the big thing with Waller is health. And Waller has played in 20 games in the past 2 seasons. He's missed about, 14, I guess, or so? So for Waller, that's the big thing. And he signed a 3-year extension heading into the season. And now, basically, he's paid $11 million for this coming season. And Waller, there's a lot that you can do with this contract. Be interested to see if they work, that there's plenty of room to move around with an $11 million base salary. It's due, it's an $11.9 million cap hit this season, but it's all the guarantees are in this year. So it's a pretty low risk move. If it doesn't work out this year, you can cut ties and not really have to pay the price with dead cap or anything like that. It's a great move by Joe Schoen, but there is nothing bad you could say about this. In terms of recency, Darren Waller had 7 catches for 92 yards versus the Giants in 2021. When healthy, this guy is just great. And in 19 and 20, and he played full seasons. We're talking about someone who had 11 catches for 1,145 yards in 19, and then in 20, 107 catches for 1,196 yards with 9 touchdowns. I mean, and again, this is a legitimate threat. And it's exciting to have that at the tight end position as well. And it makes the need for wide receiver not quite as strong. Look, it's still there, and I'm sure that they're going to want that. And now Daniel Bellinger, it slots him down to the number 2 tight end position, which is totally fine. I like Daniel Bellinger. And I still think that he could blossom into a pretty good tight end. But for now, Darren Waller there's going to be a lot of attention from defenses going towards Darren Waller, which should open some things up for some other people. So with Waller, not a whole lot of playoff experience. With Waller, he was on the Ravens early on, but really had a bit role. And we'll talk about Waller's sort of journey. But Waller, was he healthy for the Raider-Bengal game in the playoffs? Yes, he was. 7 catches for 76 yards on 12 targets in that Raider-Bengal game in 2021. So Darren Waller was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens way back in 2015, coming out of Georgia Tech. He was a 6th-round pick. The problem with Waller was off-the-field issues. Waller was suspended for 4 games in 2016 for violating the league's substance abuse policy, and then in 2017 was suspended for 1 year without pay for again violating the substance abuse policy. But he was reinstated by the league after completing a rehabilitation program. And so it's really, when I think about Darren Waller, it's a great story. I mean, really, not going to go into details as far as what was, but this was really a sad, sad story of someone who is really, really struggling. And now he's turned that into good. And, he's formed the Darren Waller Foundation to equip youth to avoid and overcome addiction to drugs and alcohol. It's really a very uplifting story for him. And so now, his first really year of great success was when the Raiders were in Oakland, and the last 3 seasons they've been in Vegas. But look, he's been with that organization for 5 seasons. And the fact that he's 30, he's going to be 31 in September, really I have no issue with that. And at the tight end position, you see a lot of these players. That's a position where you can age pretty well. Again, though, the biggest concern is that there's been injuries in the last couple of seasons. And so what will that look like? He was placed in injured reserve, in November this past season. He missed a lot. Look, he's basically played a little more than half of his seasons in 2021 and 2022. But I'm just so excited to see what Darren Waller is going to bring to the table. It's just so cool that the Giants actually have a legitimate threat that Daniel Jones can throw to. And let's just see where things go wide receiver wise, right? I mean, do the Giants bring back Darius Slayton? I don't think they will, but it's possible. The wide receiver market's pretty light. And in fact, the interesting thing is that the Raiders just signed Jacoby Myers, who was most recently with the New England Patriots. So I'm surprised that it only took the number 100 pick. That is a little bit of a surprise to me. That's a risk definitely worth taking. Like, absolutely. It's a late, that's a very, very late, it's a compensatory pick. It's a very late third round pick this season. So really, I think all Giants fans are excited, as they should be. And, Joe Schoen doing a good job. I like what he did yesterday, especially with Okereke at linebacker. They needed that. And look, the prices that Schoen is spending, it's nothing too crazy. I look at this contract and I don't think this is anything it's reasonable. It's reasonable. And the upside is there for Darren Waller to really succeed with the New York Giants. But again, Darren Waller, one of the best tight ends in the league, arguably when healthy, certainly a top 5 tight end in this league when healthy. And that's the big if. Hopefully, he'll return to form and we'll see those 2019, 2020 numbers. It's going to be tough to replicate that, honestly. If he gets that, then the Giants are in good shape. But we'll see. But again, Giants make a big trade. Darren Waller acquired from the Raiders for the number 100 overall pick that they received in the Kadarius Toney trade, a late third-round compensatory pick. I'm very excited to see Darren Waller in blue.